Welcome to the Crack Cellar. As the prophecy was foretold, I'm Two-Spirit Penguin Daniel.
And I'm Broadcaster Nickels.
And today, in the post-corona apocalypse, it is free for all to gather en masse, Broadcaster Nickels. Tell me, how many haircuts have you gotten?
Dude, I'm looking like that fucking main character. I feel bad, I can't remember his name, but the character off of Outlaw Star, dude. Remember the main character, how it's like he had a toilet bowl, but his like all of his bangs were uneven? It's like he just had some weird hairline going. That's what I feel like my hair is right now. I just look at it and I'm just like...
Didn't every character in Outlaw Star have a fucked up hairdo, though? I feel like that was kind of a thing in that show.
Yeah, it was a reoccurring theme in that show. I think they were trying... Maybe we're stumbling upon some meta-level joke where they were trying to make fun of Japanese perfect hair forever.
Yeah, Interesting. Well, wait a second. No, Perfect Hair Forever came after Outlaw Star, didn't it?
Yeah, but Perfect Hair Forever is a meta joke on what Outlaw we're talking about.
Oh, okay. I thought you said the opposite. Okay.
No, I was just kind of using it as a slang term, you know? Like,
man, I need to watch that again. I haven't seen that shit since it first came out.
It didn't age well. I have it on DVD.
Oh, really?
I mean, don't get me wrong. It's still a great anime, but I mean, I don't know. It wasn't as great as I remembered it was.
I see. Well, speaking of things that are as great as we remembered it was, but probably won't be in the future, how about that Cowboy Bebop live-action movie, Broadcaster Nickels? Are you ready for John Cho as Spike?
You know, I'll give John Cho the benefit of the doubt only because I don't follow him or any other celebrity because I have a life. Well, somewhat of a life. I just choose not to follow celebrities because that's fucking lame. But then you told me some disturbing things. And, well, I'm dismayed, frankly. One of my favorite animes of all time is going to get the DBZ treatment.
Yeah, it's weird because Spike, you feel like, should be played by, like, a Bruce Lee type. Like, it should be, like, a dude that you associate with, like, manliness and being a badass karate motherfucker. John Cho is neither of those two things.
Yeah, it's funny because what I know him for is Harold and Kumar, and the other guy, who I also don't know the name of. I don't know anybody's name.
All the names are gone.
The Indian fella. I'm sorry if that's racist or anything like that, but you know what I'm talking
Broadcaster about. Nickels, due to the current political climate, I'm going to have to cancel you from this podcast.
Hey, I'm sure he's a great guy. But anyways, I mean, he got like shredded recently for some role. So when I saw him like fucking just shredded, I was like, well, I mean, he was 50% of the stoners in that movie, you know. So why can't John Cho have a transformation to a super anime? Yeah, super anime dude.
It's funny you mention that guy. Getting shredded for a role because there's another Indian actor, the guy from Silicon Valley, who is Guilfoyle's nemesis. I forget what his name is, but that actor also just got shredded for a movie who's also an Indian American actor.
That's the same guy. It's the same actor.
No, it's not. Those are two different guys. God damn it, Broadcaster Nickels. You're going to get us in trouble.
It is?
Yes, it is. Those are two different guys.
Wait a minute. Come on.
Oh, my God. All right, we're going to cut all of that.
No, it's not. You're wrong. It's the same guy. It's Kumal. Yeah, it's Kumali Najani.
Dude, the guy who was in Silicon Valley and the guy in Harold and Kumar are two different Indians. I hate to break this to you.
Negative, dude. I'm looking it up right now. It's the same guy. Oh, it's not. Never mind. You're wrong.
Okay, thanks for wasting my time. Okay, well, I'm just going to cut all that out and go back. Where were we?
Mulligan.
The broadcaster may be getting a letter in the mail from a certain organization.
Oh, God. I'm not going to be able to make it through this. I'm going to be in Twitter jail by the end of this podcast.
Yep. So speaking of Twitter jail, one of the few tidbits of information other than John Cho playing Spike that I'm aware of is Faye Valentine's outfit will be censored. It is going to be made, quote unquote, created for a real woman in real life. And by this definition, I would assume it's either a beekeeper suit or they're just going to make Faye fat in the show itself. And, like, it's going to be big as beautiful. But, Broadcaster Nickels, you give me your impression of this news.
Faye's definitely going to have a dick.
Oh, shit. Clink. That was the sound of Twitter jail closing on Broadcaster Nickels.
Yeah, I have no doubt that they're going to fucking just make her everything she's not.
Well, that would be a goddamn shame. And I am very worried about this.
I'll tell you right now, if fucking they screw up Faye, that series is just going to go down with Faye. That's just how it's going to be. Anybody that has any interest in a live-action Cowboy Bebop will not stand for any type of augmentation of Faye's breasts. All right, it's just it's unbelievable.
Yeah, I think what's going to happen is that she's going to be flat-chested.
Oh my god!
If I really have to guess, I'm going to say that she isn't going to be fat because the actress that supposedly is playing her is very thin. It could be a rumor. I don't know if she's actually confirmed, but the person that I saw is supposedly going to be the actress, is a very attractive Asian-looking female who's very flat-chested and thin. So I guess my interpretation is we are going to tighten up the midriff and we are not going to have giant anime titties.
That's a shame. They should have got Forrest Whitaker to play Jet. That would have been way better.
Well, it'd definitely be better than fucking Luke Cage, from the now defunct TV series Luke Cage that nobody watched, and even
I
Disney
watched, bro.
Was not.
Back up
Again. I know it's so weird to me that you watched all those trash Netflix Marvel shows. You were so.
I didn't watch all of them.
You're so I only watched about TV though. Like I have to twist your arm to watch really good television. Then you're like, bro, have you seen all of Luke Cage, bro? Have you seen the Defenders?
I watched Luke Cage and Daredevil. I watched a little bit of the Defenders. The Defenders was trash.
I was going to say, I thought you told me you were watching the Defenders. Sorry, I'm glad I got that right.
Well, I partially watched the Defenders.
Partially. I pulled out halfway.
I didn't like what I saw.
It's a tactical retreat. Yeah, I thought that Daredevil had its moments, but overall was not that great. And I gave Luke Cage one episode, and I was done with that. Didn't even give Defenders or Jessica Jones a chance because I knew I could just feel it coming from the splash screens trying to get me to watch it.
Yeah, but, man, it's gonna be sad to watch that. I already know. I'm sad watching the Death Note live action. It was sad watching the DBZ live action. It was sad watching them all.
Well, and that's telling because those were decent. And I wonder if this is even going to be decent. I don't know. As soon as I saw John Cho's name attached, my fucking heart sank into my fucking stomach.
Well, he doesn't do schlock.
He doesn't do schlock, but he is just not Spike. I mean, maybe I'm going to eat my words, and I really hope I will. But I don't know. At the end of the day, it's going to be very interesting to see if this just totally spits on the grave of Cowboy Bebop, because when I heard Luke Cage was going to be playing Jet on top of John Cho playing Spike, I imagined those two in a spaceship set having the banter that those characters should have, and my brain just couldn't. It was like my brain was trying to divide by zero. It was just coming up with a computational error and saying try again.
It's funny because as you were saying that, I was coming up with the construct in my head. I was just like, it was slowly getting put together, and I did not like what I saw either. It was a modern day Will and Grace. I don't like it.
Yeah. Well, we shall see. But Broadcaster Nickels, I heard that you do not like Phantasy Star Online 2. Can you please elaborate on your hatred?
You know, as a CIA agent infiltrating the PSO2 culture community, I have to ask the real question. Why is there so much hentai in the chat? And a more important question to follow up to that one. Why do the maintainers of the game allow explicit imagery, and I mean gaping buttholes, to flood my chat while I'm playing this game?
Yeah, I couldn't even believe that when you told me it was happening. Then I looked into it and I was like, oh, okay.
But in real talk, that game is so complicated, like unnecessarily complicated. It's as far as the menus and how you navigate everything, it's just overhandling. It's just crazy.
Yeah, you have to like. It's funny because most MMOs, if you want to do an action, like you're usually only going like 2, maybe 3 steps deep in a process. Like it's click, 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 you're done. Or click, click, you're done. Or even maybe just click, you're done. In this game, it's click, 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 accidentally click the wrong thing, go back to the beginning, click, 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 click. Okay, we did something basic that most MMOs would have taken 10 seconds to do, but in this, it took a minute.
Yeah, and there's not a clear tutorial of everything either. The tutorial they give you is very basic. In fact, half of it's filled with stuff that you could probably figure out on your own.
Yep.
They don't tell you actually the important stuff.
It's because even they don't know how to use their interface. Like,
I don't think they do.
Some intern made that 10 years ago. We don't know how the fuck that works figured out.
Well, that kind of seems how the game... It's kind of how the game comes off, to be honest. Because it's like a really old, complicated, layered cake. Like,
yeah.
You just get into it, and there's just like, all right, I could see that this game started off simple, and then slowly got way, way, way more complicated, and they never went back to simplify it for people that are jumping in.
Yeah, no, that's definitely what happened. You can tell this game was made on a shoestring budget, and they didn't think it was going to be a success. And it surprisingly became a success, and they just kept tacking on to it. But in the end, like you said, it just became a layer cake, and it doesn't really feel like a cohesive experience.
No, not at all. It makes me really wonder if there's going to be a PSO3, because that game's really old, and it's crazy popular for some reason. So, I mean, they got to abandon ship at some point.
Yeah. And I think that it's really popular in Japan. I'm not sure if the popularity in America is actually going to come to fruition the way that we expect. The launch has been really buggy. Like, I think 75% of the PC players have had to reinstall the game several times, including myself. I had to reinstall it once so far, but some people have had to reinstall it like 6 times since it came out. It's just like a Windows Store bug.
Damn.
And I don't know if that's going to really quell the interest, because I could see a lot of people that are like on the fence about it. One day they try and open the game and it doesn't work, and they're just like, fuck it, and hit the uninstall button.
The fickle finger of fate.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very unfortunate bug, because this game's like 80 gigabytes installed, I think, maybe 70 or 80. It's a big game. It's like the size of Destiny 2. So when you're telling people you have to reinstall it once every 3 days, you're going to lose a lot of people.
Yeah, a lot of people. Well, now that internet has a gigabyte limit, most fucking stupid ass shit in the world. Let's meter something that doesn't exist. We'll call it bandwidth.
Oh my god. Yeah. Back in the early days of cable, it was even more sinister than now, because in the early days, they wouldn't just like auto cap you and give you like canned messages about it. You would get calls from the cable provider that'd be like, hey bro, saw your bandwidth, just wondering what you're doing over there. You know, you're using more bandwidth than anyone else in the entire city, so I'm just curious what you're doing over there. I got several of those calls in the early 2000s from various cable providers, and it's like 1984 in your head. You're just like, What? You're like wondering what they've seen of what you've done and what you've been looking at. You're just like, yeah. So the caps are bad, but at least now they're automated and there's too many people for them to actually pay attention to you. When you were a big bandwidth user back in the day, they're combing through your shit like Spaceballs combing the desert.
But they didn't find shit.
That's right. So general thoughts on PSO2. We're not going to do a real review on it, but what do you think overall? Are you going to recommend anyone play it? You think it's a stinker? Like what? I know we talked about the interface being bad, but what do you think about the rest of the game?
I mean, the combat comes off is pretty simple, but that's just at the beginning. I don't know if the combat gets necessarily more complex or more fun. I think you'll just get more really simple rudimentary moves to use. Essentially, the one of the things that really bugged me was the field of view for how far away the characters rendered. So you disappeared when we were playing together, only like 20 feet in front of me. Yeah. Like as soon as you got more than 20 feet in front of me, you just disappeared. I couldn't tell where you were. I had to look at the tiny mini map. And speaking of tiny mini map, you know, what you have to do to scale that game to 1080p. And then on top of that, once you scale to 1080p, it doesn't seem like everything scales correctly, like the mini map.
Yeah, it's weird. This game, these guys really were, when they designed this game, they were stuck in the past. They were not looking to the future.
Yeah, for sure. The game comes off like that.
Most of the settings you have to actually set in the launcher, and you can't set them in the game itself, which is one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen.
Well, I mean, Final Fantasy 14 has a couple settings like that.
Oh, they do.
Not nearly as much.
Meta settings.
Yeah.
Like it's DX9 or DX11.
Yeah.
Not resolution, graphical fidelity. You literally set the slider for graphics quality only in the launcher settings. Client has barely any settings you can set in the client for any system settings, anything graphical or performance based. Almost all of it is in the launcher. I've never seen anything like that before. It's a very bizarre design choice.
It's a very bizarre game. I'm sure weebs love it.
Oh, they do. They do.
It got the weeb stamp of approval, no doubt.
Yeah. I know that you said you're not going to play it anymore. I think I'm going to keep playing it lightly, casually for a while and see where it goes. Because I kind of like the combat. The combat is very action-based, and it reminds me of an arcade game. Like, it reminds me if there was an MMORPG arcade machine at GameWorks.
Yeah.
That's what it kind of reminds me of.
For sure. For sure.
Especially with, like, the over-the-top sound effects and the announcer.
Yeah, the announcer's definitely arcadish.
Yeah. It has charm. The game has a lot of charm. And,
why does arcadish sound like something Tom Green would say? Arcadish.
It does, yeah. That's a good call. We'll have to get Tom Green on to comment on that. Oh, you got his number in the Rolodex, right?
Have you seen his podcast or his I don't know what you would call it, but
I saw his old podcast. I think he has a new one now.
Yeah, he does live Q&A. He's accepting phone calls again.
Are you serious?
Yeah, dude. I'm thinking about calling in.
Yes. I think that needs to happen. Interesting. Well, yeah, so I'm going to say that normies, if anyone's ever called you a normie before, run as far away from this game as you possibly can. If you can even make it through the interface, you're going to be bombarded with hentai, and you're not going to know what to do. And
we're talking about at least $50 wide buttholes, dude.
Yeah, and the learning curve is super steep. I am a grizzled MMORPG veteran, and this is by far the hardest learning curve for any game I've ever played. It is bonkers complex just to start moving through the game content and like figuring out the thousands of submenus that control the thousands of subsystems. It is bizarre.
Some veteran PSO2 player is going to hear this and he's going to be like, you fucking idiots. There's only like 10, 12 windows max.
Yes. Well, here's my caveat. If you played EVE Online and you're a weeboo, jump right the fuck into PSO2 because this won't phase you at all.
Hard to stay on EVE.
What's that? You want more Crack Cellar? This is good. Join your lords on Twitter at The Crack Cellar and Facebook.com/The Crack Cellar.
Hey, you over there. Are you a straight-up Chad or a strong woman? Well, you can find us on Apple Podcasts and your favorite podcasting app. Or, if you're a straight-up beta cuck, find us on YouTube with the rest of the Cloud Chasers. And we're back with our preview of Scott Cooper's Antlers. Broadcaster Nickels. There is a resurgence in supernatural horror, and I am very, very happy about it. What say you?
Well, we just previewed Candyman. I would say the answer is yes. It's happening.
Yeah, it's
This is some weird shit, though.
Well,
this is some extra weird stuff. This is some extra Guillermo del Toro type shit.
Yeah, and it's interesting because when I first heard about this movie, I thought it was like Guillermo del Toro's, like, his project, like it was all him, like he wrote it, like this is his baby. And then when I looked into it a little deeper, I found out that it's actually Scott Cooper's, and Toro is just a producer on this, along with
Hideo Kojima. What?
Are you there, dead man? No, but it's interesting because the trailers, there's 3 of them, but most of the footage is the same. It's interesting how they made these 3 trailers, because it's almost just one trailer remixed a few times.
It is. It's the same trailer almost, just with
little
3
differences.
different, 3 different narrations.
Yeah, but I wonder what his involvement is, because he's only listed as a producer, but you feel it. You feel like it's one of his movies.
Well, I think he goes for a certain type of feel. You know, I don't think he would produce it unless it had a quality to it.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what Guillermo's famous for, you know, is you get these movies like Pan's Labyrinth, and I'm kind of forgetting about his other movies right now. But anyways, just, you know, they have unique feels. They're not just only wacky storylines, like totally out there, but just the aesthetic of the universe and the pace and the cadence of the way the story is delivered is always unique to Guillermo. Whether maybe I'm just thinking particularly about Pan's Labyrinth and the other experiences I can't remember for some reason, but I'm not quite sure if he's the producer, storyteller, or director in that case, but I just kind of, his name comes with a mystique of that kind, that caliber.
Yeah, it does. And it's weird now, like in a post Death Stranding world, you see that man and you're like, that's Dead Man. That's not Guillermo del Toro, that's Dead Man.
Yeah. A video game that is surprisingly, in hindsight, more Guillermo del Toro than I gave it credit for initially.
Yeah.
When I look back on that game, I'm just like, that game was so much more Guillermo than I thought it was. Like, I'm thinking, I was focusing on Hideo, however you say it.
How dare you?
But now that we're talking about Antlers and talking about Guillermo's kind of style, and you bring it up, that game was a lot more Guillermo.
You can tell that Hideo had a strong influence from Guillermo del Toro in his short time with him, because Death Stranding is, I mean, it has a few tiny things in common with Metal Gear, don't get me wrong, but for the most part, this game felt way more into Guillermo del Toro's world than it did into Hideo's.
Yeah, I really want to see. It's hard to really speculate on what the movie is going to actually be about, because in the trailers you get a real abrupt. There's a huge gap. You get this traditional story of essentially a native legend. This kid's feeding his fucking corrupted parents, or dad in this case. And
are you sure it's the dad? Because I wasn't clear if it was the dad or the mom. I felt like in one of the trailers
he says dad. He says daddy. He says the word
does.
Daddy. Yeah.
But the way it's cut is kind of deceptive. I'm not 100% sure that he's
I don't think it's mom, because in one of the trailers he's telling the story, the story that the teacher asks, what's your favorite story? And he says there's a story of a little cub that, gets bullied at school or whatever. And then he comes back and he eats dinner. And then one day he comes home and Baby Bear and Papa Bear are different. Their guts are going black or whatever. So there's not even a mother in the equation. It sounds like he has a baby sister, a baby brother, and a dad.
Interesting. So, I wasn't sure about that. The whole Baby Bear thing, that could be an infant, sure.
Yeah. That's what I'm assuming it is. But to what I was getting to is that the trailers don't really give you a perfect connection to how the fuck this dad is A, even corrupted, and B, why he turns into this really cool antler creature. Now, I'm guessing it has something to do with the legend, because they first give you the clue of the story itself from the child's perspective at the beginning, and then partially through I forget his name, but he's a pretty famous actor. He's been in tons of movies. That native guy, he's pretty much where he delivers that line. Maybe it's a myth to you, but it's not to us. Yeah. And I'm guessing that he's insinuating some type of antler creature or in that legend to that guy in that scene or something like that. I'm not quite sure, but in the trailers they give you no idea why antlers have anything to do with anything.
Yeah. Well, so this is definitely based off of the Wendigo myth, which is like I want to say it's
maybe I'm ignorant to this. I didn't know what this was.
Yeah, I think this is more of like a Canadian Indian thing. Like, I think this is more like Alaska, Yukon type natives rather than the ones like in
What's
America.
Wendigo?
Wendigo is like Bigfoot. So like for us, it's Bigfoot. If you were to ask the same myth up in the Klondike, they would say Wendigo instead. They're sort of similar. Obviously, the big difference is antlers. So Wendigo has these antlers, and Bigfoot is just a big Chewbacca motherfucker. In this case, the Wendigo curse, or I don't know if they call it the Wendigo curse. Maybe it's called the Wendigo flu. Either way, there's basically the myth goes like this. Back in the day, when people would get greedy or corrupt or start to like get a hankering for murder, people associated that with the curse of the Wendigo. And what it said is that these people eventually turn to cannibalism. And it becomes like when people say now, like they talk about the curse of the Wendigo, they usually are actually talking about the cannibalism part. And I think it's pretty clear that that's where this movie's going. Because if you really think about the beginning of the trailer to the end, it shows this progression of, like you said, sort of Hellraiser style, the kid's feeding his corrupt dad or mom animals to eat. But then you see towards the end of the trailer, the dad or the mom gets tired of this. And you clearly see blood on the walls everywhere in the house when he comes home. And you see that it becomes the Wendigo. My guess is that this creature who has this curse doesn't fully turn into the Wendigo until they start eating people.
That's very interesting.
It is interesting, and Wendigo's actually sort of cursory involved in like Cthulhu mythos too. Like there's a Lovecraft version of Wendigo that is, I find that interesting too, because we would just watch Color Out of Space, and now we're seeing a movie that, I don't know, this trailer kind of had some Color Out of Space vibes to it from my perspective.
Yeah. Well, I think Color Out of Space had some Guillermo vibes.
For sure.
I think that's what it really was.
Yeah.
Yeah, now that you mentioned Color Out of Space, it just makes me want to watch this movie even more. Very interesting.
Yeah. And it doesn't look like it's going to be super gory. It seems like it's one of those horror movies where it's going to be like fine for 95% and then the other 5% is going to be just ratchet fucking nasty. But I don't know. Do you see this going like for shock value, or do you think that this is going to go more down the suspense route? Because I'm sort of feeling the suspense route.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be a suspense mixed with some weird native lore of some kind. You know, they're probably going to have some weird moral story in there, like don't be a piece of shit or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm sure what's going to happen is the dad, assuming that it is the dad, we're going to find out at some point that the dad grew corrupt and started cheating people and got greedy, hence the curse of the Wendigo. And then he's, I feel like it's going to just hit all these check boxes and tie in.
You might be on something with the lack of the mother. Might have something to do with that, single dad or something like that. Starts beating his kids or something. Who knows? Yeah,
the way that he was telling the story in his classroom did definitely give off battered child vibes.
I joked about it. I was like, okay, it looks like his parents smoke crack. That's what I said straight when I saw the trailer. Kid does not look like he comes from a good home.
No. What did you think about the eerie chanting at the end of the final trailer?
Oh, the native chanting?
Yeah.
It reminded me of Devil Tongue, dude. It was fucking great. It was creepy, for sure. See, especially as what's-her-name, Felicity, was fucking going into that caution-taped, ominous door that was definitely going to be her funeral. I was like, what the hell are you doing?
Felicity's been real busy lately, man. She's been getting a lot of roles.
Has she?
Yeah, I mean, she was just the bounty hunter chick in Rise of Skywalker. She did like 8 seasons of The Americans. Been in a few movies I've seen too. I can't really think of what they are right now, but I've seen her in several other movies in the past 10 years too. She's been around, surprisingly. Most of these hot girl actresses from the 90s usually kind of just poof out of existence once they hit their 40s. And I mean, she's got to be getting close to her 50s. She's probably late 40s by now. Probably
a good manager.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about the kid's attic? Why do you think that, because it's clear that this creature, the dad, if we're going to call it the dad for now, it's clear that this creature allowed him to lock him in this room. So do you think this was like a slow progression and that like the dad was like, listen, you got to lock me in here and blah, blah, blah. And eventually I'm going to be mean and you can't let me out. Or do you think like the kid tricked the dad in there and locked him in? Like, how do you think this worked? Because when I saw this like crazy evil creature, I'm just like, how did this little kid somehow get this thing trapped and get it to like cooperate like that?
Yeah, I mean, you're probably right. It's an interesting question. I only can imagine that's how it went down because there's no other way. He conveniently got them locked in there. Or that they're never going to answer it. And they're just going to be like, give us the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Addicts are just creepy. They're inherently creepy. They've been in tons of stories and shit like that. So I know why they're placing it in the attic.
Yeah. It is kind of a meme in horror, isn't it? I didn't really think of it till you said it like that, but it's totally a horror meme.
No doubt.
So they show this mine in, I don't know if it's in all the trailers. I know it's in at least one of them where they start talking about this mine. And what do you think the mine is? Because the chanting at the end of the final trailer got me thinking this might have some serious occult vibes, like Hereditary style. Did you ever see Hereditary?
No.
It's a damn shame. It's one of the better horror movies last 10 years. It's very occulty, and I sort of got that vibe with like the chanting, and then you see this mine, and it just makes me think, is there like a coven of witches at the bottom of this mine that are like willing this Wendigo into existence in this man? Sort of like did you ever see the Stephen King movie Thinner? You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, where the Indian guy curses the fat guy and he just slowly...
Yeah.
I was starting to get that vibe from it a little bit.
Dude, that would be dope. I won't lie. That would be super cool. Witches of Hemlock Lane.
Yeah, like the drawings. Like those drawings they started to show of the beast that the kid was drawing.
Mm-hmm.
I found that interesting because it seemed like the kid was drawing it before the dad actually transformed into the beast.
Well, it's interesting. Maybe the dad is a worker in the mine. Maybe
Mhm.
something happened to him. Maybe
Yeah.
he brought it home. It's really weird, though. Maybe I'm just not understanding the story. I misheard it. But I swear they implied there was 3 of them. And now that I'm thinking back to the trailers, it only showed the kid and his dad.
Yep.
There
They
was
never
no-
showed Baby.
Yeah.
That's why I wasn't sure if Baby is actually an infant, or if it's the mother, or if it's his sister who's the same age, but for some reason just calls him Baby. I feel like there's some misdirection going on in this trailer. Because why would you have 3 trailers that are all the same footage unless you were very, very concerned about not giving up certain plot points?
Oh, I'm sure. Dude, if you hear the baby cry, you might as well just wake up. It's not worth it.
So, this is based on a short story in a magazine. I've never heard of that happening before. A, I didn't even know magazines posted short stories. And B, I've never heard of one becoming a movie. Very odd.
This was a short story in a magazine?
Yeah. I'm not sure what country the magazine's from. I don't know any of the details. I just know that originally the story is called The Quiet Boy.
Huh. Well, good for him. I hope he's getting a good amount of money.
Well, like you said, Guillermo del Toro is not going to be involved in this if he thinks it's trash. He has a rep, and his rep is basically perfect.
Is he, doing the new Silent Hill with it out too? Because that's happening.
Don't get my hopes up, Broadcaster Nickels.
My guys on the inside. I mean, my gender neutral agents on the inside. No, all right, they tell me.
Yeah, I heard that rumor too, but then I saw a quote from Hidao where he's like, basically saying it's not true.
It's all legal. It's all legal.
You think so? Yeah. I hope you're right, because I can't remember too many times I've been more disappointed than when I heard Silent Hills was canceled.
They're going to announce all of a sudden out of nowhere, we get the rights to Metal Gear Solid and Silent Hill and Castlevania, and then all of a sudden they're going to be like, oh, we have a Silent Hill a year out. How the fuck is that possible? Just we do.
I don't think the world is ready for a Hideo Kojima Castlevania.
There already was one.
Which one?
The one that was before Lords of Shadow. The
Wait
one
a
that
second.
was the one that was the sequel that is Lords of Shadow, the one that came before.
He made that game? Like that's his game?
He wrote the story. He actually played the chupacabra in that game, like the tiny bat creature thing that like just speaks like in bat tongue or whatever. That's actually Hideo. He actually did the voice for that creature.
So he didn't design the gameplay though. He just wrote the story and played a character.
I don't know how much I think he had a hand in producing the game, but I know he just I think his main credit was writing the story.
You're talking about the one with Patrick Stewart and Robert Carlyle, right?
Yep.
Dude, that's so crazy.
I can't believe you didn't know that.
I had no fucking idea. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I wonder now how much of that he was involved in. Well, either way, that's a little bit off topic. So, Broadcaster Nickels, back to the point. Scott Cooper's Antlers. Do you give this a thumbs up, a thumbs down, or the dreaded side thumb?
Dude, I'm going to give it 2 thumbs up.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a thumbs up as well. There's a lot of good signs. We're in a horror renaissance, and we're in a supernatural horror renaissance, and that is great news for me because, I mean, I like the original Scream. Don't get me wrong, it was all right for its time, but holy fuck did they go off course in the 2000s with making every horror movie some dumbass, I know what you did last summer garbage. And we're finally turning the freighter ship just a little bit back the right direction, and we're getting shit like Color Out of Space and Antlers. Alright, well, it sounds like we're both pretty enthusiastic about Antlers, and we'll probably be doing a full review of that when coronavirus deems it acceptable to release movies to the public once again. So look forward to that. And Broadcaster Nickels, are you ready for our review of one of the most prolific meta movies of our generation.
Yeah. I can't believe it was funded at all or made, but yeah, let's do it.
And we're back with our review of Jason Blum's The Hunt. And the creators of this movie describe it as the following. In the shadow of a dark internet conspiracy theory, a group of elite gathers for the very first time at a remote manor house to hunt ordinary Americans for sport. But the elite's master plan is about to be derailed because one of the hunted, Crystal, knows the hunter's game better than they do. She turns the tables on the killers, picking them off one by one, and she makes her way toward the mysterious woman at the center of it all. Broadcaster Nickels, that official Hypnosis preview gives a shocking amount of the movie's plot away, doesn't it?
It does. When you were saying it, I was like, wow, is he making this up right now? Is this or is this legitimate, like off the back of the movie?
Oh yeah, dude. This is like the official Hypnosis. So general thoughts on this movie before we get into spoilers. Anything that stuck out to you or
Rian Johnson wishes he could make a movie on this level. His fans wish he got on the level of this movie. All right.
Not a Knives Out fan?
That was a great movie. But
you just shit on your own point.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I wasn't talking about Knives Out.
This movie is originally based on the conspiracy theory, the real life conspiracy theory of European royalty abducting and hunting human teenage children. And you can go on the internet and Google right now and you can go look this shit up. There's a lot about it. There's some pretty compelling evidence that some of it's real. That most of what I've seen involves Belgium and the Netherlands. It seems to be a thing up there. I don't know exactly if it's true. It probably isn't. But either way, this movie is clearly based on that with the whole Manorgate situation, which this movie fictionalizes. But this movie's version of it is 100% based off of what I'm talking about in real life.
Interesting. I did not know this.
Yeah. So they basically adapt it and they make it into a political thing instead. Because with the royalty, it's just pure evil, like real life evil. Like this isn't a political thing in that aspect. But this movie totally politicizes it. And you can see that with all the characters. They're all gross political stereotypes on both ends. The conservatives are like the most, conservative-y conservatives you could think of, the stereotypes. And same with the liberals. Exact same situation, and some of them are good, some of them are bad.
I was really proud of Glenn Horton.
He was one of the shining diamonds in the sky for this movie, for sure.
Is it Horton or Howerton?
It's Howerton, yeah.
Howerton.
Yeah, he was good, and it's funny too, because like if you asked me who could just play like a smarmy, globalist elite, like fucking hotshot guy, he's 100% at the top of my list. Like it's the opposite of the John Cho Spike, the exact opposite.
Saw him in a kimono. I was just like, oh my fucking god, dude.
Yeah. Every scene he's in, he steals the scene
for sure.
And
well, he didn't really place a lot of talent around him. Let's be real. His group of actors, he was the standout, no doubt.
Like it's not even close. Yeah, the liberals. He's by
Team
far
liberal.
The best liberal. Team liberal. Yeah, Hillary Swank. Boys Don't Cry. That's definitely number 2 on the liberal side. But after that,
no doubt,
we have a steep drop off. Like all of the rest of them are kind of stupid and dumb. And it's interesting because early on, I think most people when they heard of this movie, they thought, okay, this is 100% an anti-Trump voter movie.
Mm-hmm.
On its face. Like that's just what it seemed like. And you go into this and it is hard to tell if the movie is actually anti-conservative or anti-liberal without giving away spoilers.
I think it's very purposeful.
Yeah, it's very ambiguous the way they frame it because both sides seem dumb at times. But both sides have their moments at times too, and you could even say that it kind of leans to the anti-liberal side slightly, which is shocking to me.
Yeah, I would tend to agree, man. Like, when the first 10 minutes of this movie, I was just like, God damn it. Then the next 10 minutes, I was just like, God damn it. And then the next 10 minutes after that, I was like, what the fuck is going on right now? And then about an hour and a half, I was like, Hillary Swank? That's my review. I'm out.
Yeah. This movie was pretty entertaining, but it doesn't take itself as seriously as I thought it was going to. Another preconception is I thought this was going to be a lecturing movie. One of those movies where it's like, hey, you need to believe in this and I'm going to show you why. And this is going to be the consequences if you don't. You know, that's kind of what I was expecting going into it. But instead, it's kind of just a standard Blumhouse horror movie with, you know, like a really sharp political tinge.
Yeah, you could say that. I feel like there's a message buried underneath all of it. There's some weird cryptic message. I feel like that's what the movie's really about. There's some, like, I mean, you have to just watch the movie to understand what I just said. But like at all moments of that movie, I was trying to understand what the message of the movie was. It's like, you're calling these people idiots. You're calling these people idiots. These people are smart now. Mm-hmm. Like some of the rhetoric they say, I'm just like, oh, well, okay, now I get where they're going. Nope, never mind.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's like they're trying to like almost clown people that believe in this divisive climate we're in. That's almost what it, now that I'm saying it out loud, I think that's what the movie is. It's just like giant troll on people that are so divisive now.
Yeah, I definitely agree. There's just this weird element to this movie where it feels jarring the way it goes from scene to scene. I don't know if it's like my past experience with movies like this. Like, remember Surviving the Game with Ice-T and Gary Busey from the 90s?
Oh, yes.
That's kind of what I was thinking of watching this movie. Like, I was kind of just comparing it all the way to Surviving the Game. And Surviving the Game is so straightforward compared to this movie. It's like the exact same concept, but it's not political in Surviving the Game. And it's just super straightforward, super 90s. Like no muss, no fuss, just like straight.
I don't know. In the 2020 lens, Surviving the Game is very political in comparison.
Oh God!
If you really think about it.
Oh God!
If you really think about it.
You're right. Isn't that funny? In the 90s,
Surviving the Game is so much more straightforward racist. You know, like it's making a statement straight up. Like, you know, it's something a lot of people would want, you know, to be seen.
Yeah. It's really interesting that you say that because, of course, in this movie, in The Hunt, all of the targets are MAGAs. They are deplorables. They are basically Republican voters. Let's just put it plainly. You go into The Hunt thinking, oh, you're about to see a bunch of Trump voters get tortured to death. That's what I was expecting, literally. And there's some of that, but it's not what you'd expect, not nearly as gory. There's a few moments that are pretty, you know, they're up there, but overall, not even close to the level I expected. So if you're avert to gore porn, and you are more of a suspense horror person, I'm going to say give this movie more of a shot.
Yeah.
But it's nice and short, too. You see that runtime, it's under 100 minutes. You know, it's an hour and a half movie, quick, crisp.
It was.
Yeah, it doesn't dwell on itself. You're not sitting there listening to a bunch of bullshit exposition. It just gets to the point, does its job, and it's over. And it's refreshing.
It was a good pace. It was a really good pace. I never at one point felt it was going fast or it was too short, but it was an hour and a half, less than an hour and a half.
Acting was pretty good.
They
Some
made
characters better
good
than others.
use of their B actors. They made
did.
really good use of their B actors.
They knew exactly how much each actor was worth putting on, like line wise. So like literally the amount of lines was totally dependent on how good of an actor you are in this. So the liberals, for most of the liberals other than Hilary Swank, Glenn Howerton has the most lines by far because he's the best of them. The rest of them all have like 2 lines. That one girl has a few lines, but
I think she had the most.
it doesn't like dwell. It doesn't sit. Like you're not sitting listening to these people talk all the time. It's almost all action. The few moments that aren't action almost all just dwell on the main character. And another thing, I love the main character. What do you think about her? Crystal.
Oh, dude.
Snowball.
She was awesome. She got better as the movie went on. At first I was just like, is she autistic? But and then she took off her shirt or one of her shirts, and I was just like, oh, she's hot and autistic. And then in the movie, she was a very interesting character though. Her character developed into like way more than you thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And she has some quirks that the movie never explains.
And I like that.
I thought at the end they were going to be like, oh, she got hit in the head or something like that. And there's like this weird memory where her brother like did this like weird thing where it was like a mannerism and now she's like mimicking it or some stupid shit. But no, there's none of that. She just has some really, really weird mannerisms.
She starts off as like sort of just like a strong woman, like a standard strong woman in the beginning. But she has the most surprising character evolution, I think, of any character in this movie.
Her character actually is the strongest point being made in the movie, I think. I mean, when I look at the movie as a whole and you see like liberals being portrayed in a radical form and conservatives being portrayed in a radical form, and ultimately the concept of the movie, liberals hunting conservatives, if you isolate that and you look at her as a character, she's the biggest statement of the movie. There's no doubt about it.
Just before we go into spoilers, I want to say there are a lot of twists and turns in this movie, but some of them are a bit too obvious. And I think that's my biggest criticism. This is one of those types of movies that's built on twists. Like they want you after every scene to be like, oh, didn't see that coming. Oh, didn't see that coming. And it does work sometimes. But sometimes you're just like, you could have done a little bit more to not make this so obvious that this isn't actually.
There was a couple of mafia walks where you're just like, this person is clearly about to get axed.
Exactly. So yeah, I'm going to say, like, before we go into spoilers, I do recommend you watch this movie. I don't think it's like a must watch or anything, but I think that don't go into it. Don't not go into it because of the politics. Because it's really balanced. You're not going to walk out of it thinking this was a hit job on one side or on the other. You're going to walk out of it being like, okay, well, that's not what I expected. And I think that's a good thing overall, even if the movie isn't perfect.
Absolutely. I definitely recommend it. It's probably one of the best. It's one of the better movies I've seen this year. No doubt.
Bold proclamation from the broadcaster.
I watch a lot of movies. Not terrible. Especially right now in this corona apocalypse, guys. I mean, my gender neutral viewers.
Listen,
don't sue me.
Pick a side.
I'm on the side of God Almighty. All right. His holiness will smite you in your bigotry.
Let's get into spoilers, Broadcaster Nickels. This movie starts off very quickly with murder. They don't waste a lot of time. You get like this intro with Hilary Swank when you don't see her face, but it's her backside, and you see this original text conversation with all these liberal, smarmy assholes texting like, oh, fuck the Trump supporters, fuck them, yeah, we're gonna hunt them soon, the hunt's gonna begin soon, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, okay, and then we don't know this, but it jumps forward a year. They don't tell you. It jumps to the plane ride where our boy from Always Sunny is in the plane talking about caviar with the pleb waiter. And we are immediately gifted with a scene where a redneck stumbles out of a fucking back room and they're like, oh fuck, he's awake, and everyone's like freaking out. And Glenn Howerton is so good in this. He is so good in this. This scene is one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie, and it's basically the first real scene of the movie, like when the actual action is starting. This guy comes out, and this doctor guy, one of the elites, says, oh, no, calm down, everything's okay, I need you to lay down this towel. I'm gonna put you back to sleep. And he just fucking shoves a pen in the dude's neck.
It's not even a fatal blow either. And
No.
he acts like it's a fatal blow too. He's like, good night, bitch, essentially. And it's like, dude, you see the size of that dude's neck? You ain't gonna fucking kill that dude like that. That guy's pissed.
Yeah. And so you have a bunch of panic, and you have this dude get with like a broken champagne bottle swinging around the airplane while his neck is just comically gushing blood out of it. And Hilary Swank calmly walks through the back of the plane and fucking murders the guy from behind.
At the beginning of in that scene, before you know it's Hilary Swank, I thought honestly she was Asian. I got a real Asian vibe.
Yeah, she's definitely way more feminine now than she used to be. But the thing that I find interesting about this is that they jump 1 year ahead without telling you. They put you on this track where you think this text is happening, the hunt is happening, and then immediately the hunt happens, and you just think everything is linear here. But you go through this movie, and you end up finding out about the middle point, a little bit over the middle, that there was an actual hidden time skip, and they go back a year to show you what actually happened with that text message. I just found that to be a very bold choice, and I feel like most directors are afraid to do shit like that now because they just think that people don't have the brains or the patience for that type of storytelling.
Yeah, I would tend to agree, and I also think the money's just not there. You know, it's just not. Let's be real. That's why I made that comment earlier. I'm really surprised. Like, I'm genuinely surprised this movie's made. Where the funding came from.
Yeah,
because it's not PC, and it's not only not PC, but it's not the opposite of PC. You know, it's this weird I'm trolling everybody type thing. And I'm just like, so who's funding you?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like,
yeah.
Where did you get your money?
It feels like they took some select edited footage to like the right liberal producer, and they're like, look, we're making an Orange Man Bad movie. Can you give us money?
You think they duped somebody? Is that what it was?
Honestly, I believe they did. And you remember how this movie was getting a lot of press coverage like a year ago. And it was all Trump people being pissed about it, right? They're all like, oh, they're openly calling for our murder now in movies, blah, blah, blah. And like, there was this big controversy about this. It's fucking crazy how wrong they have. I mean, they don't have it wrong. They have it right. But the spirit of this movie feels like it is plainly going against the liberals.
Yeah. I think what it's really doing is, like I said before, it's trolling both sides, but
a little
clearly one side is acting a lot more ridiculous than the other.
Yeah.
And so it's easier to highlight that, essentially. And I think that's what the movie's doing, you know, because let's be real. I don't want to get political or anything, and this is the most political I'll get right here. But nowadays, we have a lot of people acting virtuous about things that are very, very similar to people that would throw people in gulags, a handful of decades ago. It's so easy to make fun of them. When you see this rhetoric, you're just like, what are you fucking talking about?
It feels like right now the pendulum is just kind of shifting where the extreme elements of the left are just so easy to go after that even movies that are like kind of trying to be anti-conservative end up being a little anti-liberal. I don't know if it's on accident or I don't know if it's on purpose, but more subversively, it's hard to tell.
Yeah. The movie has a very nebulous approach to that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what their angle is.
Yeah. So, after that airplane ride, right, we just wake up with like we'll call them the first group of the hunted. And you have this hot blonde chick that you start with that you assume is the main character. Right?
Poor man's Khaleesi, I labeled her.
I assumed that she was the main character. Did you? In the beginning?
No. I detected that shit from a mile away.
Really?
Yeah, just the way she was dressed and stuff. I was just like, this bitch is gonna get a bullet.
Honestly, there was a lot of shit that I saw coming in this movie, but her dying at the very beginning was not one of them. When she took that headshot from the sniper, and this was probably one of the more gory shots of the movie too. Did you really pay attention to that kill?
Oh yeah, that was a full. God. I think that was a full prosthetic cadaver.
It had to have been. Dude.
I'm pretty damn sure that was put in at the split second frame or some shit.
Oh man,
it was grotesque.
It was fucking brutal, dude. It was shocking to me because at that point, like 5 seconds earlier, I literally thought she had plot armor. I thought she was the main character. I thought she was Crystal. And fucking, you see that, and she just takes that
maybe
headshot.
The other Crystal.
Oh shit, there's a theory. Yeah, but anyway, so this first group is very interesting because you see the person that I think's the main character die, and you're just kind of like, okay, now what's happening? And then this other guy kind of takes the place as the main character a little bit, right? And you're like, okay, maybe he's the main character and I had this movie all wrong. Then he dies. Basically, this entire first group dies. Except for two people, a redneck chick and the dopey guy from, you know what I'm about?
You're talking about Marky Mark's brother.
There we go. Yeah. So out of the first group, those are the only two that survive. They make it past this fence and they get to this grocery store. And here's our first plot twist I saw coming a mile away. It was clear that these people were in on it from the very beginning, as far as I was concerned. The fucking name of the store was suspicious. The look of it was suspicious. They go in and it looks like a bodega. Like, it's just like, you're just like, dude, come on. These guys are in on it.
I want to say, I agree with you. Yeah, I'm agreeing with everything you're saying. When it gets to the point of the bodega and the redneck white, I love it that she's from Wyoming. By the way,
I know that was great.
That was a cherry on the top. Like, because it was like 2 minutes before she died. She was like, I'm from Wyoming. She eats a fucking powdered donut, and this is my point. How the fuck did they poison all those donuts? And what did they poison them with? Because she opened those donuts. I know I'm looking too much into it, but after the end of that scene, when that guy goes to drink a soda out of the fridge and she makes and that joke occurs, you're just like, well, wait a minute. That guy just nonchalantly drank one of those sodas, right? And that chick just nonchalantly ate one of those donuts. Clearly not everything's poisoned in the shop. What the fuck just happened there?
Yeah, no, I really like the bodega scene, but I have serious problems with it too. And what you're talking about is one of them. That scene where the liberal husband goes for a soda after they murder those two people. And she's like, spit that out, it's poison. And then they do the joke, oh, it's sugar, it's the real poison. I was like, okay, that's a retarded joke. Putting that aside, how in the fuck, Mr. Husband, are you in a fucking bodega full of poisoned food and you think it's a great idea to just grab a pop and just start swigging from your fake store? It was, as far as I'm concerned, it's the biggest plot hole in the entire movie.
I think it's just really highlighting how dumb they are.
Again, there you go. Like, you have this subversive undercurrent where these liberals, man, they aren't portrayed very positively like you might have expected going in.
No, not at all.
They're all incompetent. They all fail. They all die. All the way to the very end. It's crazy, honestly. Not what I expected at all. But, so yeah, most of the starter characters are killed in the opening scene. And then you get our boy shows up, Gary, and meets with our girl, and he's clearly a dope. And I think he's probably the most negatively portrayed in the movie as far as the conservatives go.
Yeah, he's the antithesis of the side,
yeah,
for sure.
Like he's kind of dopey, he's annoying, and he's a podcaster. Which I found to be very interesting. He's like the Alex Jones.
That was a jab. That was a jab at podcasting, wasn't it?
It was. It definitely was.
I didn't pick up on that until you just said that. But yeah, that's a clear jab at podcasting. But let's be real here, though. He was crazy, but at one point in the movie, he was clearly justified. It was so funny.
That was the one twist in this movie that really got me. So let's skip ahead here. Our strong woman lead character, after getting her whole cover ruined by our boy, she's like, all right, I'm going to go look around. And then she's like, what are you going to look for? He's like, tracks. Oh, we're going to go look for tracks. And he's like, what tracks? And he ends up following her around, right? And they get in this train. They jump in this moving train. And on cue, a group of illegal immigrants show up in the train they're in. And I'm just like, at this point, I'm just like, this is the most tropey bullshit I've ever seen. I'm just like, what is happening right now?
It's tropey schlock, but in the best way.
Okay, so Alex Jones is the man that talks about crisis actors all the time. He is big on that topic. And so this guy who's clearly supposed to be the Alex Jones of this movie is like, no, these aren't real illegal immigrants. Don't you see? These are crisis actors, blah, 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 blah. And like, clearly our strong woman lead character wasn't buying it. She's like, oh, look, there's a baby here. They're not going to put a baby in harm's way. These are real immigrants. They end up both being right. And I totally thought that he was just being portrayed really negatively, and it was like egg on your face. Oh, Alex Jones, you're stupid. But it ends up being that he's absolutely fucking correct, and the lead migrant is a crisis actor. He's in on this whole hunt.
He's not a crisis
he's
actor.
One of the liberals.
Yeah,
he's one of the libs in the hunt.
That's the partial egg on the face, is that he is being an idiot, but he's telling a half truth. He is.
That's correct,
he's on the nose, you know.
Exactly. Yes. So yeah, again, like a theme is going to be subversiveness. This movie has a very interesting subversive tone to it that you don't expect, and it snowballs, no pun intended, with our main character, who at this point just is like, you know what? Put your hands up, get rid of your guns. These are real soldiers. I know they're real soldiers. We're getting out of here. Just shut the fuck up. Put your gun down. Let's go. And this fucking liberal Arab fake migrant starts baiting him. And that was one of my favorite parts of the movie, when he's just like, hey, Gary, they're not buying it. And then they just turn around. He's like,
I died, dude.
That was so good. That was so good.
I could not believe it.
And then the balls on this guy, again, painting liberals in a certain way, where he just like starts like, listen, dumbass, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And then when we get out of here, I'm going to give you a head start before I hunt you again and kill you. And I'm just like, this is like the arrogance of blue checkmark Twitter right here.
Yep,
this is right here.
Yep.
And so our boy from Evolution gets his like Bobby Boucher Waterboy rage going, and he just tackles the guy, unloads a fucking grenade, sticks it in his fucking pants, walks away, and this dude just blows up. So here's another fatality of yet another owner of the liberal team, and the dude runs away, and we don't see him again for a while. But I just found it really interesting that, again, the guy that you're like, okay, this is the negative conservative. This is the one they're really going to stick it to us and be like, oh, this is what you are. Look in the mirror, conservative swine. But instead, they end up making him right and winning.
Partially.
Well, at the time winning. Of course, his fortunes do turn later. So from there, we have like the immigration officers, which are like the Gestapos from, where are they, in Bosnia? Is that where they're at? I think it was Bosnia.
I think she said Bosnia at one point, but I don't think that's what she landed on.
Okay, let's just say this: they're in an Eastern European country of some type, I think it's Bosnia, but I don't know exactly where it is. But either way, they have Russian, Germanish accents and whatever. These guys are questioning them, and they ask her, "Are you being hunted?" And she's like, "Who said anything about being hunted?" And she's like, "Oh, I'll show you who says it." Our boy Don, he ends up being sort of the main sidekick for the rest of the movie in a very surprising way. He's like, he's kind of represented sort of like one of our uncles, like sort of like the bad kind of redneck. And maybe he is the one that's supposed to be like the look in the mirror type character, but I don't know. Like, they didn't portray him super negatively. And then we have this thing where eventually Snowball ends up killing him because Hilary Swank, Boys Don't Cry, convinces her over the radio that he's in on it. Now, this is one of the more interesting strands coming from the storyline that never really goes anywhere. We are never given a concrete answer on whether or not Don was really in on it or if he wasn't.
I don't think he was. It wouldn't make sense that he was.
Don't you think that Boys Don't Cry would have rubbed it in at the end, though, if it wasn't? Because it's like she was looking for something to rub in her face towards the end there. That would have been perfect, right? Oh, yeah, you killed your only ally because I tricked you, ha ha ha. Instead, she kind of just vaguely asked her, like, do you think he was your enemy? But never really, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
They leave it a little bit open into interpretation.
Speaking of Hilary Swank, I can't believe, just based on political climate and all that, this movie should get her canceled.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get her canceled. In fact, I shouldn't have said that. Maybe we should cut it out. Maybe we should edit it out just based, I don't want to give these fuckers fuel. But I'm really surprised an actor of her caliber took such a stance. I mean, maybe not a stance. I shouldn't say that. But, is a part of a movie that's willing to, dare I say, make fun of the enraged left.
Yeah. And that's really what this movie sort of feels like. It feels like a honey dick. Like they honey dicked the left-wing people into thinking this was an anti-Trump movie to get them to watch it so that they could be like, no, the mirror we're actually shining is towards you.
I think it's towards everyone, but yeah.
It is towards everyone, but they weren't trying to trick conservatives into watching this. Like I said, all of the press was, this is an anti-Trump movie. We're going after deplorables. Like it was all 100% set up for conservatives to veto it and just like picket its fences. You know what I mean? Like they weren't reaching out for the conservative viewer by spinning it in a way that was gonna, they were totally spinning it anti-conservative.
For sure.
Which I think tells you a lot of what they were trying to do and the audience they were trying to get.
Yeah. The majority. People that don't know what the fuck that's going on with this world now.
Yeah.
You know what the ending kind of reminded me of, though? Was a movie by Broken Lizard, the people that did Super Troopers. It was called Club Dread. It came out a little bit afterwards, right? And if everyone remembers that movie, it was essentially, spoiler alert, is a movie about a tropical island where this type of Jimmy Buffett character ran a club, an exclusive island club where these people would come on and spend the week there or whatever. And the staff would take care of them and stuff. And the whole staff was the Super Troopers actors and stuff. And and the Jimmy I think his name was Captain Ron or something like that. I forget, but rest in peace. Bill Paxton was captain, and it's a great. I got to rewatch that movie now just because I forgot it was Bill Paxton.
For real,
but anyways, where I'm going with it is that at the end you find out that the killer was doing all of this because essentially someone really bummed him out because they didn't give him back his weed. and it span him out of control, and like he just went on a killing spree. He was like, "Fuck everybody! I'm tired of this island." Essentially, it was a great revelation of a comedy horror. You're just like, say what?
Yeah,
and that's what the end of this movie kind of was, because like you meet Hilary Swank, and you kind of you understand where her character's coming from, and at the very end, you just realize how bitter she was and exactly why she did it.
Yeah.
And it was so fucking bitter and so lame.
If you're going to pick one character on the liberal side that comes out of this positive, the most unlikely thing happens. It's Dennis. It's fucking Dennis. He's like the only one, and he's a piece of shit, but like he is like the least piece of shit of all of them in the most shocking way possible.
Yeah, well, I feel like he's just an undercover. He's just there for comic relief.
Yeah,
because he wasn't very liberal. He was the least liberal of the liberal party. When he put that kimono on,
take that off. That's appropriation.
He's like, dude, a kimono. That's cultural appropriation, dude. He's like,
oh my god. Yeah,
it's like, but I look good in it.
Yeah. All right. Well, take a few steps back here. I want to go over some of the other liberals that are now dead, in which the area we're talking about. Back to the convenience store a little bit. First of all, that fucking fake 911 call. How the fuck do you get off that phone and not know that's fake?
I honestly thought that they were in on it. I thought that was a fake line. That call was going to one of their friends on the radio or something, because that shop was set up. Nothing was real. Mm-hmm. I don't think that line was going to the outside.
No, it wasn't. It clearly wasn't.
Also, keep in mind that they were in a foreign country. So when they answered that phone, they got an American person.
So this is like super fake, and this is kind of a common thing in horror, like where characters are being stupid and you're yelling at them like, why don't you see? I get that. But this is one of those moments where I find it hard to suspend disbelief, because like the attitude of this 911 dispatcher, he's like, okay. Like he was like the most like non-emergency responder of all time.
I like how we just like subtly agreed with him at the end of it too. He's just like, yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah, dude, just wait there, bro. Maybe eat some donuts. You want some powdered donuts? I hear they're really good at that gas station.
And when his friends wanted confirmation, they were like, well, what'd they say? And he's like, they're coming. And he didn't even believe it. He's like, they're coming.
Yeah.
It was like,
But
the
two liberals actors, or the two liberal characters in that shop, were the perfect insane left-wing boomer couple. Just like the dialogue was insane. Like, he probably uses the N-word, and not in private. He probably uses it on Twitter.
That was one of my favorite lines of the movie.
And then like, and like he calls them black, and she's like, what did you call them? You mean African American? And he's like, it's okay to call them black again. And she's like, who says? And he's like, NPR. It's just
and like, what's NPR made of? White people. With
they were like the most believable like left-wing couple I've ever seen. Like just like the discourse between them, I'm just like, yep, I can see that being real in like thousands of households surrounding me right now.
Oh, no doubt.
Also, when they leave the gas station, did you notice the Space Force kids ride?
No, I didn't.
There's like one of those little coin-operated like kids ride things, and it's like a spaceship, and it says Space Force on it. I thought that was like an interesting Easter egg.
That's funny.
But going back to the whole Gestapo immigration officer dialogue, when they said they were calling the American embassy, did you not immediately think, okay, it's not the American embassy. It's going to be one of these people. Like, did you not immediately know that?
Well, see, here comes the Dawn conspiracy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because in the movie, they don't show how the ambassador gets called. It just cuts to the picnic table or the bench where Dawn and Crystal are at. And then it shows the ambassador pull up and talk to the foreign account, whoever he was, the leader. And then the ambassador starts walking over to them. And then it cuts, to them introducing each other. I think that Dawn made the phone call probably. Because that person ended up being one of the hunters, one of the liberal hunters.
That is actually that's strong evidence that he was in on it.
But it's not strong evidence because they didn't actually physically show Dawn make the phone call, so that's just an assumption.
True. Okay, it's circumstantial evidence.
Yeah,
for sure. But definitely interesting, and definitely does not cement my opinion either way, because like that's the real question I'm left with after this movie's over. I'm just like, did she murder Don? Was Don did our boy Don, he just wanted to be a redneck in his trailer in Alabama, and she just murdered him?
I think Don was a good guy.
You do?
Yeah, just because he helped her kill Glenn Howerton. He didn't have any qualms with that.
True. True.
So it's like if he was on their side, he was a pretty evil bastard himself. Didn't care about anyone
who would partake in this sort of thing. I
True.
would say that's on the table for him. So maybe he didn't like Glenn Howerton. Maybe he's like the one guy in their friend group. He's like, I hate that motherfucker. He just took the opportunity. So the fake embassy car was so obvious, and they get in the car and they start talking, and every single word that happens in this car makes it more and more obvious that this is fake. And this is when our girl Snowball really became a star of this movie for me. She makes this face when she realizes it. When she finally realizes this guy's a phony, she makes this like little scrunchy face. She fucking grabs the goddamn handlebar on the top of the car like she's about to do a pull-up, like she's gonna kick the window out, but then she flips herself fucking 90 degrees and kicks this motherfucker into the window in one of the best car takedowns I've seen this side of the Bourne Identity. That was awesome.
The noise she made too while she was turning, she was like, it was awesome. I loved it.
Yeah, that was a great scene. And another thing that makes me wonder about Dawn is like, he gets so upset when she murders these people, when she starts going off on her little fucking crazy military thing. Yeah. He just like, he's like, what are you doing? You're crazy. Stop. It kind of just gives you fuel for the idea that maybe he was one of them. But yeah, I like that. And then she opens the trunk and he's like going off, why do you gotta do that? Why do you gotta do that? And he looks down and he's like, oh, and he sees our boy Gary dead in the trunk. So rest in power, Gary. The podcast will go on.
We'll keep the spirit of Gary in our podcast. Rest assured.
The Crack Cellar is now Gary's podcast.
Gary's 3 cellars deep, all right? You might see his ghost from time to time. He's playing too hard. He's playing Texas Hold'em with fucking Casper, the friendly ghost, right?
So this leads to the second half of the scene, which is another one of my favorite parts of this movie. And our girl Snowball immediately just starts saying, my mom told me the story. And she starts talking about the tortoise and the hare. That's
Talk about a snowball of a story.
Oh, God, dude. It's like everyone knows the tortoise and the hare. Everyone knows that story. And she starts talking about it verbatim until the very end where at the end of the original story, the tortoise wins because the rabbit was lazy and, underestimated his opponent, blah, blah, blah. But in her version, instead of accepting the L, the hare goes to the turtle's house, eats his children in front of him, then murders him, and then eats their dinner on their dinner table. This is one of the most... So, like, if you talk about, like, the most horrifying kid stories of all time, Hansel and Gretel's up there, right? Like, if you think about it, like, Hansel and Gretel's got to be one of the worst. Yeah. This makes Hansel and Gretel look like Hello Kitty.
For sure. And when you watch the movie and you see Dawn's face, you'll be as terrified as Dawn was. And you'll ask the same question Dawn asked, too. Your parents told you that story?
Yeah. So yeah, this goes to a point where Dawn's like, so wait a second, are we the turtles or are we the rabbit? And then it pans to the liberal bunker, where we see the last of our boy from Always Sunny, and we go to the aforementioned execution scene where he goes out to take a leak, and Dawn helps Snowball murder him. And then at this point, we have like this, limited exposition with the liberals kind of talking amongst themselves, and Ron drops the pig down here, right? And they're like, they fucking just murder this pig. Clearly you see it's a pig. You see it's a little baby pig, and they're just like spraying it like fucking Predator.
Yeah. I didn't rewind, but after they killed it and that chick drops to her knees and she's just like, Oliver, no. I was like, wasn't she shooting? I swear she was shooting too.
But yeah, so this is a distraction. Our girl Snowball comes down like a goddamn assassin and just starts killing everyone. Like, this chick, she's like one of the greatest action stars of the modern era now, isn't she? Like, female action stars. Isn't that weird that you came into this movie thinking it was going to be like a fucking, just this lark, like this politically biased lark, and then you come in and you actually get one of the strongest female main characters you've ever seen in your life?
Yeah, no doubt.
What a twist.
She should get more fucking roles after this movie, but I get the feeling she's not.
Yeah.
She comes off as actually having experience. Mm-hmm. Like, some of the things she did in that movie, I'm like, I don't know. I get the vibe that rather you're actual ex-military or you're like a competition shooter or something, but you know your way around guns.
Yeah.
I could tell.
She felt authentic. Like,
yeah.
It almost felt like I was watching Quiet from Metal Gear Solid 5.
That's a good example, yeah.
Yeah, like she just had this like aura of like, I'm gonna kill you and you can't do anything about it.
She's a bad bitch, no doubt about it.
Yeah. So yeah, she murders them all. This scene, we're about halfway into the movie now. All of the liberals are dead, except for the ringleader, Hilary Swank, who we've never actually seen her face yet at this point of the movie. And then we go into our 1 year flashback where it becomes apparent that what we saw in the very beginning with that text was actually not what led up to this, but what led up to their plan to actually do this. Which
it was the most meta statement of the movie.
It totally was. It totally was. So essentially what happens is this text message we described at the beginning when we first started talking. This text message wasn't actually real at this point. They were joking. It was a bunch of smarmy liberal elitist pricks joking about hunting conservatives, but they weren't really doing it. Now, this chick's phone gets hacked, or her friend's phone gets hacked with the text conversation on it, something like that. And so we go into her office as the CEO of this company, and these people come in and they're like, we had to fire this person. She's like, why? And she shows him the text we saw at the beginning of the movie. And she's just sitting there like in disbelief about it, like, it was a joke. I'm not really hunting humans, it's a joke. And you realize, okay, this was an actual joke. But this joke leads to her and all of her cohorts getting fired from this company. This is what leads to the actual real human hunting, because she is so pissed about this joke being made like it's real. She decides to make it real, and she goes after all the people who had the conspiracy theories on the internet in this movie about this thing that wasn't real at the time, but then she makes it real. And then they meet in Athena's apartment, whose Boys Don't Cry, the CEO, and they start going through all of the people that posted about this conspiracy theory that cost them their jobs. And you see them literally do the planning stages of this human hunt
I think the ultimate statement is overreaction.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what the ultimate statement in the movie is, for sure, is that it's just like, look what you ultimately become, like, in such a short amount of time. You know, it's just like, if you freeze for a second, just look what you're willing to do right now to get your way.
Mm-hmm.
I think you'd be disgusted with yourself.
Yeah. And one problem I had with this scene is it ends with Hilary Swank's fucking seeing our girl Crystal Snowball on the screen, and she just immediately like, nope, stop talking. That's our Snowball, and names her as like the main villain of the Conservatives. This was weird. It felt super
One
jarring.
of the best jokes.
This whole writing choice of her picking her out like that. It's really weird how quick she came to it.
Well, I think it's a hard one because they don't delve into it too much at the end of the movie. I mean, they kind of round off the whole idea, but at one point you think, oh, well, she's so quick to calling her Snowball, Crystal Snowball, that you think that she has a clear understanding of Animal Farm, you know? And then at the end of the movie, when Crystal questions why Hilary Swank's character called her Snowball, and Hilary Swank's response is, you read Animal Farm?
Mm-hmm.
I took that two different ways. At first, it was just like, oh, a dumb, ignorant someone I perceive as being dumb and ignorant read a book that I love. Or it was... and this was the funnier thing, which I think maybe where the movie was going, is that Hilary Swank's character actually didn't read Animal Farm, and she was surprised someone read Animal Farm, and that they actually understand what Snowball meant. But that it's kind of counterintuitive, because how would she not have read Animal Farm if she knew who Snowball was? You can't just look at the cover of Animal Farm and know who Snowball is.
Yeah. I mean, maybe she like went to like some notes website to do a book report in college and knew the character name, but didn't know any of the meaning behind any of it.
She used Quick Notes or some shit.
Yeah. I don't know, calling Crystal Snowball, it just seemed a little on the nose, because the reference makes sense, but it doesn't make sense for her to think that about her. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like there's this weird sort of fourth wall breaking with her calling her Snowball. I don't know what they were going for, and it kind of feeds into your theory, like maybe she didn't even know the book, and like the Dark Horse theory that she's like, oh, you're smarter than me, actually. I never read that shit.
Yeah. Well, again, I think it just goes back to overreaction. And again, like, you're not willing to look in the mirror type of thing. You know, I think that's what the whole, when they're looking dead in the eyes with each other, laying on the ground, thinking they're both dying, when in reality, Hilary Swank is just dying. But still, she's just like, why you call me Snowball? You know, like Snowball was an idealist. If you really think about it, you're Snowball. And, you know, it's like, I think it's a lot more cut and dry. It goes back to the overreaction thing. Like, you look in the mirror and you realize you're up in the clouds. Your head's up in the clouds and you don't understand what reality is about.
Very true. And after we get out of that flashback, we go back to the liberal bunker, and like the trainer guy is still slightly alive, right? And she questions him, gets him to show where Hilary Swank is hiding. And he tells her, she's been training for 8 months. She's going to tear you apart. Isn't it weird that he'd say that to her when he literally just saw her go into a bunker and take out like 10 people by herself? Like, it seemed a little weird for him to like take the leap that Hilary Swank is still going to destroy her after that.
Yeah. I was at this point, I was still thinking, you know, maybe Hilary Swank was like some Asian ninja.
Well, spoiler alert, she wasn't. It's the same old Karate Kid. I did enjoy that chick fight at the end, though. Like, that was a really, really good choreographed chick fight that I wasn't really expecting.
It was really good. It was gruesome. Dude, this movie's a lot more gruesome than I thought it was going to be. Fuck, dude. The way they took that guy's eye out at the beginning, that was brutal.
Oh, you're right. I forgot about that. That was probably one of the worst, like the most disgusting scenes. And the big twist in this becomes that the crystal that Boys Don't Cry was actually trying to get, the one that she actually wanted to be Snowball, is the wrong crystal, which I found to be the final nail in the coffin of this movie taking the side of conservatives and going against liberals, because you get to the very end of this movie and they're basically like, you're a dumb bitch. You're so incompetent that you designed an entire human hunt and went through all this trouble and you didn't even get the right person because you were so stupid. Like, it was such a ballsy thing to...
I almost want to go back and watch the beginning of the movie, because I think that chick that gets a bullet in the head at the beginning of the movie is the other Crystal. I want to say, like, when she introduces herself to that dude, she says her name's Crystal. So the Crystal, Boys Don't Cry was trying to hunt down the whole time, actually died at the very beginning of the movie.
That is an interesting Crack Cellar theory, but I don't think it's true, because remember,
probably
before the chick fight, she finds the wall with the pictures of all of them, right? Remember that?
Yeah.
And there was a picture of the hot blonde chick from the beginning. She was with like some senator at like a court building.
Okay.
So yeah, it kind of makes you think that that's not the case, but
they fucked up the picture in the quote with the main character.
True.
Crystal. So maybe,
right.
Maybe they mixed her
How
up.
deep does the incompetence go? That's really the message of this movie.
I think their message is pretty strong, pretty deep. Pretty fucking deep.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, it just seems like this movie straight up sides with the people that everyone thought it was going after, which, God, they don't really make movies like this anymore, where like it's that subversive, where they just try and trick you.
I think that's the only way to get that type of message across nowadays. It might have been a really smart approach. Us talking about it right now might be getting some people spinning. They're like, wait a minute, what's this movie? The Hunt? Mm-hmm. Bigots, right. Twitter mob.
Dude, I'm 100% certain that there is a huge contingent of right-wing people that totally just vetoed this movie as soon as they heard the initial news reports back a year ago.
Oh, and no doubt about it.
They have no fucking idea that it's not what they thought. And it's sad. And it's like, that's one of the reasons why I just right-wing, left-wing, it's all dumb. Just fucking sit in the center with the sane people, please. Boys Don't Cry is basically dismantled in every single way till her very final breath of this movie. All the way up to the point where, like you said, they were kind of laughing with each other, bleeding out on the ground. And Boys Don't Cry looks at Snowball and is like, hey, you're really the right Crystal, right? Just, we're both going to die. At least tell me the truth. And Snowball looks at her.
Such a comical way to go out.
It's just like, no, you don't. and Boys Don't Cry was just like, whoops, and dies. That was so good. Like, what? Whoops. Again, we're not getting biased portrayals here. This, like you look at that portrayal of her end, and you're just like, she got portrayed as a clown. She was. They might as well put a rainbow nose on her. Like, she's a fucking clown in this movie.
And it's funny too, because Hilary Swank fucking read that script and was like, "I want this role."
Yeah. It makes you wonder about Hilary Swank, doesn't it?
Makes me want to watch more of her movies.
Yeah. And it's funny too. This is kind of a feeling I had before I even watched the movie. I started doing a little research and I looked at the actors that were in this movie, and I kind of realized something. None of the actors are like liberal actors. Like, they're not the ones that are on Twitter that you know. They're not Rob Reiner. They're not Steve Carell. They're not all these fucking people on Twitter that you just, like, you already know because they don't stop talking about how bad Trump is. You already know that they're left wing. Those actors aren't in this movie. And I noticed that immediately. That,
No doubt. No doubt. That's why you see so many no-namers.
Yeah. So in the end, this movie just seems like one giant psyop.
It's a psyop I can get behind.
Yeah. So that being said, they need to make a live-action Metroid movie right now and hire Snowball to play Samus right now.
Dude.
When I saw her walk out,
I'm swelling up right now,
dude. When I saw her walk out of the shower in that black dress after she took "Boys Don't Cry" down, I was like, "Oh, dude, this is fucking Samus Aran, dude. This is it. Where's our adaptation?"
No doubt.
Yeah,
she needs to be in more films. She's a great actor.
She's a good actress, and she's like pleasant on the eyes, but not in like an overly cutesy way. You know what I mean? Like she kind of has like this Sigourney Weaver vibe, which is again, like we're talking about how movies back in the day could have strong women and not be political about it. Like they could just have one. Like you don't have to be like, I am woman, hear me roar. You can just be Sigourney Weaver in a giant mech suit killing alien queens in a spaceship and be a badass.
Yep.
That's what this chick reminds me of.
No doubt. I definitely get those vibes.
On that note, let us get to the hit, the miss, and the whiff. Broadcaster Nickels, what is your hit?
The hit? Crystal.
Hmm.
Crystal's the hit. No doubt about it.
No pun intended.
Sir, this crack is burnt around the edges.
My hit is Glenn Howerton in the opening scene on the airplane. He was literally born for that performance. When he's sitting there like mingling with the natives like, "Hey, have you ever had caviar?" "No, sir, I don't think I have." "It's good, but I had it last night. What else do you got?" Just like, dude. The casting agent for this movie is a goddamn genius. This is the right thing to do.
Fucking, I'm here to take your order. Oh, okay. Put the headphones back on. No, I'm just kidding. What do you got?
It was so seamless. It makes me think that Glenn Howerton is really that guy in real life because of how well he played that guy.
No doubt.
But on that note, Broadcaster Nickels, what is your miss?
The miss. I think the miss is probably going to be the bunker scene where the what's his name? The advisor, the military guy. I didn't really understand what like that dude's angle was. It's just like Hillary Swank has dirt on me.
Yeah, that was
so I'm training these liberals to kill a bunch of people, and he seemed like, and then you're like, oh, this guy must be like fucking high up vet, and then the joke ends up being no, he's National Guard. It's like, what? Seems like a comical miss.
Well, my miss was the flashback scene where they pick the victims out on the TV, and it's mainly just the part at the end where Hilary Swank picks Crystal out. It's weird because we have this whole scene's a little weird. It's basically watching a bunch of liberals correct themselves on their political correctness each scene, and you have,
which
like,
kind of makes it great.
Yeah, and like they're all like super uptight, but then Glenn Howerton shows up in his kimono, and it's just like it's a great scene. Don't get me wrong, but the thing that I think they missed on is the end of it, because so right before Crystal, they show a black guy, and they're all like, "Oh no, you can't hunt a black guy," like, you know. again, racist. Like, it's funny how the people that think they're anti-racist are almost always the most racist people. So they're like, oh, no, can't kill it. And Hilary Swank is like the one who's like really firm about it. Like, some of them are like, well, you know, we got to be equal, right? Like, it'll be real bad if we have no black people in our hunting list. Like, as if like they're planning on the government finding out about it and publicizing it in the media. It's like such a weird.
I think it was
exposition.
internal. I think it was just internal guilt.
Yeah.
Like, we got to have at least one black person. We got to have us be equal.
But so Hilary Swank is just like firm, like, no, next slide. And I'm just like, damn, okay, boys don't cry, Jesus Christ. And then they go to Crystal. And so, like, the dude who's, like, going through, he's like, and here we have, I am Patriot for you, or whatever her screen name was.
Freedom for all.
Freedom for all. And her name is Crystal. And she said this, Hilary Swank sucks. And then Hilary Swank's like, it's her. She's Snowball.
Dude, the way she, like, went up to the screen, like, I was like, damn, is this, like her long lost friend that like gave up on her, exactly. Like left her at the fucking Mount Doom to die alone or something.
That's exactly it. That's why it's a miss to me, because she acts like there is so much more weight behind it than there actually is.
Yeah.
Like, she's just a crazy person who sees a light flashing in the sky and she's like, that's Satan, get it.
And more irony is they fucked up the thumbnail. They put a picture to a fucking crime in their eyes. It was mismatched.
Well, that being said, Broadcaster Nickels, what is your whiff?
The whiff. Killing Glenn Howerton off. Too soon. Maybe not too soon. Yeah, let me retract that. Not enough. No. He had a good amount of scenes. He could have had more. Don't get me wrong. Could have had more. I wouldn't consider that a whiff. I think his death was the whiff. Just as we were talking about earlier, you know, just the clear mafia walk to the piss. It's like, come on. And then when he got there, right? He got there and it's just like, there's no buildup. I thought Glenn Howerton was going to have a line, you know, at least some type of rebuttal, like see, you know, his killer and be like, well, go fuck yourself, at least in Glenn Howerton's words. But no, it's just a slit to the throat. It's just over.
Yeah. At the same time, like, I was looking at the clock and I was like, well, there's only 20 minutes left in this movie, so whatever. You know, like, he made it pretty far in. But he's such a good part of the movie that it just felt like you wish he was in more of it. But then you're like, maybe the secret sauce is using it just the right amount. Who knows?
Yeah. I wish he ended up being the real villain, to be honest.
Yes.
But then again, we wouldn't have gotten the legendary performance of Hilary Swank at the end. So
we would not have. And I'm going to go out on a limb, and I don't give a fuck about Boys Don't Cry. I think this was her best performance. She was good in this. Like, she was legitimately good in this movie, and I'm not a Hilary Swank fan, but she was good.
The end scene was her. No doubt. It was her.
Yeah. No doubt. Well, my whiff is the Spike Pit girl. So you remember the very beginning of the movie? So this chick.
What?
This chick.
You're picking on Spike, girl.
Dude. So this dumbass chick in the very beginning with the first group, the starter characters at the very beginning, you know, people are dropping left and right. And this chick's just like, let's go, and just runs out into like the middle of the field like an idiot. Just like, you're just like, no. And then she falls into a spike pit. And it's pretty clear that she falls into a spike pit.
Yeah, it's pretty clear.
But then she gets dragged out of the spike. Okay, so
poor man's Chris Hemsworth goes over.
So our rhino hunter, the big game hunter, he's like, okay, we're going to pull you out. And he pulls her out of these spikes. First of all, I'm going to say there's no way you pull someone out of spikes like that easily. That was super unrealistic, which is a part of my whiff here. That was like unbelievable as fuck that you could pull her out of a spike pit like that so easily. And also no gaping organs coming out of her body or anything. It's just like a fucking slight wound. Like she got like hit by a fucking rubber bullet or something. You're just like, what the fuck?
Well, 2 pikes went through her.
Okay. Well, anyway, so her and Big Game Hunter run away and immediately hit a minefield. and get blown up. And then her upper torso gets thrown back into the spike pit, the exact same spot.
Dude, it was awesome.
This is like some Evil Dead shit.
Fucking Marky Mark's brother, dude. No.
He's like, I don't want to do this. And she's like, oh, shut the fuck up, Snowflake, and pulls the gun and kills herself. If you're going to take all of the political references in this movie and put them on a list of number 1 cheesiest to the number 100 cheesiest, this is number 1 cheesiest. That whole like interchange with the snowflake part was a huge whiff. If you want to like go after like the whole snowflake meme, you could have done it in a much better way than that.
I don't know. I thought it was pretty funny. I was dying. Maybe it's just because it's Marky Mark's brother, but he's just like, I'll save you. Don't worry. And she's like, fuck you, dude. And he's like, fuck.
Maybe my knowledge of this actor is impeding my enjoyment. But
he's a legendary actor.
I mean, honestly, the scene itself, I fucking love. I'm not saying the scene is a whiff. I'm just saying that usage of the term snowflake.
That was Mark Wahlberg's brother, man.
As you know, Broadcaster Nickels, on the Crack Cellar Podcast, we use the patented official Joker rating system. On that system, what do you rate Jason Blum's The Hunt?
3 Aquamans. I want to give it a big old fat Joaquin, the big old fat S rank. That was a great movie. I loved it.
Damn, the Dark Horse S rank. I did not expect that. For me, I'm gonna have to give it a simple jack. It was really good. It wasn't the greatest movie of all time. It wasn't the greatest horror movie of all time. But it had a secret sauce to it, didn't it?
It did. It was almost from the get-go, too. Like, it's like hot sauce. It's not too hot. It's really good tasting. You're just like, you just want to keep eating more.
And with that, we will close out.
Hey, Two-Spirited Penguin. Do all lives matter?
The truth is out there.